everyone, and welcome back to the Black Lawyers Podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Judge Yodi. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for
Hi.
having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And one more time, pronounce your name for the audience because you have such a beautiful name.
Yodit Tewelde.
Yodi Tolde. Yes. So thank you for joining the Black Lawyers Podcast. We've wanted to have you on for some time because we know that you are an advocate, not just a lawyer, and now you are a TV judge. So lots of exciting things with you going on. We make all of our guests play Hot Topics. So
Oh
we are
gosh.
going to legal hot topics, not quite like Wendy, our sister Wendy Williams, but our two hot topics today are ASAP Rocky and Jay-Z and Diddy's sexual assault lawsuit being dropped. And starting off with Diddy and Jay-Z, because that literally just happened. There's no verdict yet in the ASAP Rocky trial. But, you know, we are in, I call it a new era of like a Me Too, of women taking advantage of New York's look back statute. And I want to say California, a few other places have also look back statute where you can file for a sexual assault claim if something happened outside of the statute of limitations for you to file. You can file it now. And so people are filing, and but the opposite effect of what is happening is what they call the bandwagon effect. So
Right.
you have, obviously, you want to believe all victims, victims filing, but then let's just say someone decides that this didn't really happen to them, but they just want to take advantage of the look back window. There's a really difficult way to determine who is who. And so when this came out with Jay-Z, everyone was shocked because this lawsuit, if you remember the details, because I know there's so many involving Diddy, but it was
Yeah.
Jay-Z, Diddy, and a female celebrity that watched the sexual assault. And so it was very detailed, and for it to involve so many celebrities, it was just really hard to believe at the time. And so I know she went on and did like an interview with the news where some of her details weren't adding up. Her father was like, "Oh, I don't remember that night. I don't remember that happening." And it was kind of like soon after that, and some other filings with Jay-Z, it's now dismissed. And it is dismissed against Jay-Z and both Diddy. It's not just against Jay-Z. Just what are your thoughts on now him? Some people saying, "Oh, well, he's not letting it go because now he is suing the attorney who filed what he believes is a frivolous lawsuit in an attempt to extort him." What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I remember my initial thoughts when I read some of the allegations that were contained in the complaint
Mm-hmm.
by this woman. Um, like you said, she included so many details that can easily be fact checked, and her story was crumbling. So there were some things that just didn't really add up. So this wasn't a surprise that the complaint was dismissed. The problem is, while we do want to embrace those who alleged allege that they've been sexually assaulted, you want to, of course, there's this sort of environment that we're in now where we want to automatically believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think of we don't want to discredit. We
Okay.
want to allow people to have their their day in court, right? On both sides, the person that's doing the accusing and the person that's being accused.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily jump to automatically believing, but I don't also discredit anybody's story, what they're
Story.
alleging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the problem here is when you're going after someone who is a public figure, it's almost as if, you know, this dismissal doesn't even really matter for someone like Jay-Z, because I'm reading the comments and I'm thinking that now the comments, because at first they were definitely bad on, for Jay-Z,
Right.
right? Everybody
Right.
assumed he
They're
was
like, "You're
already
buddies with Diddy. You did it." Yeah.
right, you did
Yeah.
it. And so he was guilty by association. And I'm
Absolutely.
expecting the comments to shift now. I'm expecting to read comments like we were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is great for him. But I'm hearing and I'm reading that he's paid someone off, that his time is still coming, that this dismissal doesn't mean that he's not guilty, and so while some of the sentiments as far as the last one is concerned, a dismissal doesn't mean that you're not guilty.
Right.
However,
Right.
um, it's the damage has been done, right? I don't necessarily think that his uh life will change in terms of, he's still going to have his businesses, he's still going to be thriving, but people are still going to have this in the back of their mind. And this is why I think Jay-Z won't let this go. He wants to use this as an example. And honestly, I don't see a whole lot of comments saying, if a person was guilty, why would they continue to keep this going? And I think he wants to make an example of the attorney who had an ethical duty to do their due diligence in, before filing a lawsuit. That you can't just do this to anybody. You can't just try and like Jay-Z alleged the attorney did, was to extort him when you see dollar signs. And so I commend him for taking it a step further to say, you know what, even though I'm sure he wants this to end, he also wants to make this a valuable moment for others to maybe, because people keep saying that Jay-Z's going to have his day. Well, maybe this is going to frighten other people from coming forward and alleging things that are just outlandish. So, those are my initial thoughts.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I will just like to leave with this legal note. It is for those who are listening to this or will catch the clip of this that think that he paid someone off, or Jay-Z and both Diddy paid her off to dismiss the lawsuit. Two things: it's dismissed with prejudice, which means it can never be filed again.
Never be filed again, right?
And then the second thing is, it's not likely a settlement that has been paid, because if you pay a settlement,
none of this should have come out.
Well,
that's the point of paying a settlement, or not. Or go ahead.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If he paid a settlement to get this dismissed, right, because there will be no record that a settlement was paid, he wouldn't then turn around and file a lawsuit against the lawyer who was over the settlement. You see what I'm saying?
That
it doesn't make any sense, because if you signed a settlement, you wouldn't be able to sue. If you paid this woman off, you wouldn't be able to turn around and sue her lawyer for filing the lawsuit that you
because settled. the matter is settled.
The matter is settled, and you can't say it's frivolous because you willingly entered into a settlement with this person. The facts don't add up that you would pay to settle this and then you turn around and sue the lawyer that filed the claim. Because because according to his lawyer, he didn't pay anything.
And that's another thing that doesn't add up. If Jay-Z had the opportunity, which he has claimed that the attorney did approach him before filing a lawsuit and try to get this settled. The point of doing that in advance is so none of this comes out. Yeah. It came out, so it doesn't make sense that now he pays off the alleged victim when all of this has already hurt him in terms of his reputation and really, putting his family through a lot. It doesn't make sense to then after the fact pay this woman off. So people,
legally, that doesn't add up.
Exactly.
Right. So for those that are wondering, the likelihood is close to zero that he would have paid a settlement after this had been filed, after everything had come out, and then also turns around to sue the lawyer to say, hey, you purposely filed a frivolous complaint against me to extort me for money. That just doesn't track in the legal world. It doesn't follow. And so we'll stay, we're going to watch this suit against Busby. They have some other things they're claiming against him. Obviously, this isn't the only lawsuit he has filed, obviously, against Diddy. We'll see if others kind of follow suit with Jay-Z. I know he says there are many more celebrities that he plans to file suits against. I think even for the attorney, just for his legal license, I think he is going to take a little more caution moving forward with his filings moving forward, because to your point, it is their job to do the due diligence, to fact check, not say you don't believe someone, but to verify their story before filing, especially against such a huge celebrity. Another rapper on the chopping block is A$AP Rocky, our second hot topic. He is obviously the beau of Rihanna, his two beautiful sons with her, and she's been actually going to court and taking the kids. I don't know if I would have took the kids to court. I don't know if they were doing it for sympathy points, but they supported him in his trial. And speaking of inconsistencies, there were some inconsistencies about his friend in the gun range with the gun. it showed that he lied about going to a gun range with the same gun. And so it's almost like once you start lying about one thing, then you start wondering if the person is lying about other details. And obviously there was also some text messages that were read on the stand where ASAP Rocky vehemently says, "Hey, why are you trying to track me? You know, I didn't shoot you. You know, I didn't shoot you. You know, you're not my friend." So all this has kind of come up in trial. Obviously, ASAP did not take the stand. I believe it's your
Surprise.
fifth amendment. Is it your Fifth Amendment, right? Is it the Fifth Amendment
Yes, against
incrimination?
self-incrimination. Mhm.
You do not, because some people say, well, why didn't he take the stand? Well, you don't have to. Uh, and it's also the prosecution's job, even if let's say he did it, it's not his job to prove that he did it. I always try to remind folks of that. But anyway, yeah, just your take on him not taking the stand and just based on what you do know about the case, the likelihood of the verdict in this particular case.
I don't know very much about the details of the case, but I will say that the issue of the defendant taking the stand, not taking the stand is something that a lot of people struggle with because, of course, even jurors, even when they're admonished that, hey, you can't hold this against a defendant who chooses not to take the stand, people want to hear from the defendant themselves. And so there's always this feeling that there's something to hide. If you're innocent, you would willingly take the stand and testify. And as being a criminal defense attorney, I would never ever put my client, even if they wanted to, I of course have to do what they want to do, but I'd advise them against it because there are so many other things that can go wrong. You can be 100% innocent, but if you
Okay.
take the stand and say you get defensive or say you start
Okay.
sweating because you're nervous or say all these factors point to guilt, they can look like a person is guilty. And so there are so many other reasons why you don't take the stand. And the biggest one for me is, like you said, the burden is on the prosecution. So if they're not proving their case, there is no reason for me to put my client on the stand. Their burden is falling. They haven't met it. So what is the point in putting my client on? So as far as Rihanna, there was somebody who was saying, I think before the trial started, whether she was going to be in the pews or not, she was going to be in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I chimed in and I said, listen, if I was a defense lawyer, I would absolutely tell her, if you want to see your man possibly come home, what you want to do is show support. What you want to do is humanize ASAP. You want to make him seem like a family man. So yeah, you better tote those kids too, because what you want the jury to do is look at him and say, you know what? He's got a family, especially if they find him guilty. Right. That can help with sentencing. But I think that is a strategy. Not to say that that was the sole reason why she showed up. She probably did want to support him, but it was very, very smart. It's a old defense trick to, if you don't even have the support of your family, then something might be wrong. Maybe you really are guilty. That's what jurors think.
Wow. Well, you just gave us a criminal law class 101. You need to teach criminal law somewhere, not to give you any more jobs, because I know you're doing so much. We know you're the new judge of Hot Bench. But before we get to Hot Bench, why, and thank you, of course, for playing Hot Topics. You did a wonderful job. Before we get to Hot Topics, Hot Bench, why did you become a lawyer? I mean, you're so well spoken. I'm sure you have other interests. I mean, you're kind of living some of those interests now. Why become a lawyer?
So I don't have a very, deep answer to that. It wasn't like I was born to know what I wanted to do. It was quite the opposite. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was in college, undeclared major, then finally went to the English side, English rhetoric with a minor in communication. And I was creeping up to like my senior year, still not knowing what I was going to do with that degree. I didn't want to teach. I don't have the patience for it. And I didn't want to go to grad school. And I had heard, hey, you could be, in law school, you can go to law school with any degree. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so again, it wasn't because I was moved to be a lawyer. Now I will say I grew up as an advocate. And so when people notice in my bio on social media that I list things off, how some people, say who they are and what they do. My first two, I guess,
Adjectives,
words
right.
in my is immigrant
Okay.
and advocate
Yes.
and then lawyer.
Yes.
And that was done purposefully because uh, everything is grounded in my immigrant background,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And the way I became an advocate was because of my immigrant background.
Hmm.
My family experienced cultural, language barriers, discrimination. And so it came from a place of not knowing.
Hmm.
And me being raised in America and knowing the language and getting acclimated to the culture of America and being schooled here, I felt responsible for my family in
Hmm.
advocating for them.
Hmm.
So I always grew up with a particular affection, or I would say empathy, for those who struggled, who went through things, who maybe even appeared as being the underdogs.
Hmm.
And that is where my advocacy came from. Then you fast forward to college, and still that and going to law school never even like
Hmm.
clicked. It was just really the path of least resistance. Where can I go with this English degree? So it's not something deep.
But you know what?
And
I still believe that because at the end of the day, I always tell people you can do a lot. You know, some people, I want to be a lawyer because I want to make a lot of money. I'm like, there's so many jobs you can do, and you don't have to be a
and not
lawyer.
take a six-figure loan
Right,
out.
right. And
Absolutely.
take a bar and go through 3 years, and all
Yeah.
that. So I
Yeah.
still think, as much as you don't think, I truly believe, because you are an advocate when you're an attorney, you are the best advocate for your client. Like, it was a seed that planted that I think just tracked with your path without you, I think, even knowing it, which is a great segue to my next question. Who were you before you were a lawyer? You already answered it. You come from an immigrant family. Where is your family originally from, and how old were you when you came here?
So my family's from Eritrea. It's in
Oh,
northern
okay.
East Africa. And I was actually born in Sudan.
Oh.
And my family immigrated to Dallas because we had family that were there before us. So
Mhm.
that was just an easy way, to connect with family here in America. And I was 9 months old. So
Oh,
I have
wow.
no recollection
You have
of,
no recollection of it.
no,
Wow.
no, yeah.
Have you gone back?
I haven't. That's a whole separate conversation. My parents have gone,
Uh-huh.
but I have not.
Mhm.
Politically, it's not great there. A lot of people are, they don't have freedoms,
Right.
and it's not a place that I would go and have a great time. People say
Hmm.
it's a great time you'd visit. Now, I do want to see the country I come from and my
Right.
family comes from, but um, the political climate isn't safe for me to go, and I'm very vocal about it here. And so it's just more of a choice for me not to go and visit, but I hope to one day.
Absolutely. Well, the women from your country are so beautiful, and you
Oh,
you're obviously gorgeous. Every time I see
thank
women
you.
from that part of Africa, I'm just like, they're so stunning. Oh my gosh. Like, all the like models, you guys have like this beautiful face structure. And yes, I am aware a
Thank
little
you.
bit of the political situation over there. Yes, I think it is
Yeah.
obviously best for you to visit when it's safe. We want you to be safe. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're here in America, you're thriving. You've been on a couple of TV shows. You're entering, I think you guys just had your 100th episode of Hot Bench. Tell us how Hot Bench,
2000.
oh,
2000.
2000, I'm sorry, 2000
Yeah.
episode. Where, how did you land in Hot Bench? How did this opportunity come about?
It's so funny because I was doing a radio interview in 2019 and I was asked if I would ever do a judge show.
Okay.
And I said it so quickly. I said, absolutely not.
Really?
Absolutely not. And that was in
Okay.
2019.
Okay.
And so it to me felt like court shows at the time felt very exploitative. It felt very much like I had worked so hard to establish myself as a credible voice in the legal field. And I felt like the lines were blurred when it comes to shows like that, because people are more concerned with being entertained. And for me, if you know about the work that I've done up until this point, my focus has always been to educate people on what I know about criminal law. I want to pay it forward. Like, this is what I've experienced, I've learned, I've done. And here's the knowledge so that you could protect yourself from you know, being caught up in this web that we call the criminal legal system. And so for me, anything I did, it had to highlight, showcase, be focused on someone taking something away, someone learning something because I've said something, I've shared something. And so for me, I felt like court shows wasn't doing that. It was more so about like, again, the entertainment factor. But I got a call from an executive producer at Hot Bench, and he said that it was created and executive produced by Judge Judy. And for me, that warranted at least me looking into the show, because she's had a stellar career as an attorney. She's the GOAT of daytime television. And to me, she has the Midas touch. So I felt like she also would represent herself in not only with Judge Judy, the show, but like anything that is an extension of her. And so I looked into it. I saw that the judges on the show, because there's three of us, they had amazing careers. Two of them were judges in New York. And so I felt like, all right, this isn't just like what I thought it could be, right? Or what I thought it might be. So I looked into it, it was probably the best decision I could make, because the show doesn't force me to say anything, do anything. They literally accept me as I am. And that even means my appearance, which I'll get into in a few, because in television, as you know, Black women on TV are judged by their appearance. Braids can be a problem. It has been in my past in media. There's no issue here. So that aside, we call the show an edutainment, because we not only entertain, not on purpose, not because they're telling us what to say to entertain the audience, right, or the viewers. We have funny characters, we have colorful characters that come before us, right? And these are real cases. And people don't understand that the best reality show does happen within a courtroom, which is why we're always talking about these trials that are happening right now, right? It is an entertainment factor, not to say that these aren't serious matters,
right?
But there's so many relatable issues. There's so many issues that people experience that we're talking about, which keeps people glued. So I don't even have to be entertaining. Okay. It's entertainment in and of itself. The educational portion of it, which is really important to me, is that you're listening to three judges hash out the law, the facts, going through the merits of the argument, and you're seeing us get into it, not because we don't like each other, we respect each other, but we also see things differently. You got an 82-year-old man on the bench. You've got me, a Black woman. And then you have another woman on the bench who's young, who's got a family. And we see things differently. And so we come from different backgrounds. And that is interesting. And then when we render our verdict, not only do the litigants understand it, but the viewers understand our why. Why did we come to this conclusion? That is the educational portion there. We're not just saying, hey, we said what we said, and this is the verdict. This is why. You heard it. We were arguing, right? And then we came to a verdict. So now you get to see the behind the scenes and how our decisions are rendered. That is the educational portion of it.
Absolutely. I love how you say edutainment, because I've heard of the phrase infotainment. So edutainment, I like that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I watched a few episodes. I definitely concur. And shout out to Judge Judy. She's an alumni of my New York law school, my law school.
Nice.
So yes. So I know lots about her. Tell us really quickly, I mean, you probably have had so many cases at this point, but is there any case like at the top of your mind where you were like kind of shocked about the facts, or maybe
always every time I think
the person is just extremely entertaining to watch? Is there a case?
They're all so entertaining. It's just every time I think I've heard the craziest case, I'm always mistaken. There's always the next one and the next one. But what stands out to me is this one particular case, because there was a man suing for the least amount of money that we've had, which was $5. He was suing for a $5 latte. And again, these are real cases, not made up. We actually take cases that are filed in
Right.
courtrooms across the
Right.
country. So this is not a game. This isn't a joke, but it was a matter of principle for him.
Principle. Okay.
And a lot
Okay.
of people come to court as a matter of principle. And when I tell you he spent $120 going back and forth to this cafe, over $5, over $5. So, you know, that is a case that always stands out in my mind. We gave him the $5. One of the judges was like, I'm absolutely not going to agree to that because he's wasting not only our time, but this is just ridiculous.
So wait,
And that's and
he wanted the $5 because he felt like was owed a refund for the coffee he purchased.
for the coffee, correct. He just wanted, they should have given him his $5 then. That was the point. But
Was
this
something
man,
wrong with the coffee?
he was met with some, without getting into too much
Right,
detail,
right.
but he felt like there was some underlying racism. Maybe
Oh,
there
I
was
see.
there was
He
delay.
didn't like his treatment. So he was like,
And
you know
he, and
what?
he,
I'm not paying for this. You give me my $5.
and he was very clear that he had said, I don't want my coffee anymore. I want my money back. And they still
I
proceeded to make the
see.
coffee. And he's like, didn't I just say?
I
But he
see.
lived 100 miles away and would go back and forth to try and get this money back. And I'm like, you're not even mitigating your damages. So now you want us to pay you for gas? You shouldn't have done, you know. So the beauty of that is even in that third judge, Rachel, she knew that he deserved his $5 back, but she was making it a matter of principle for herself, in that she was trying to explain to the viewers, you can't bring frivolous cases like this and waste court time. So she was safe in her mind to say all those things, knowing that the two of us, majority rules. If we're not unanimous, majority rules. But the two judges, myself and Judge Michael, agreed that he got his $5, but she was still able to say her piece, and that people could still walk away knowing like this was insane. You should have handled this on your own. We shouldn't be here today. But yeah.
Well, that is really interesting. Like you said, you think you get a crazy case, and here comes another one. I definitely think I missed the episode about the $5 latte. So thanks for sharing that case with us. You mentioned that you are a criminal law attorney. Obviously, you mentioned that you're immigrant. Did you ever practice immigration law or just criminal law?
No, it was, and
Criminal.
again, even after law school, I still was like, I don't even know what I'm doing with this law degree.
Right, right.
But no, I went into the criminal law field,
Okay.
starting as a prosecutor first.
Interesting.
So I prosecuted cases. That way I kind of learned my style in trial. I learned how to, you know, really hone in on my voice on someone else's dime. I was too afraid to go out on my own and defend somebody because, again, liberty is at stake. So I felt better going to the prosecution's office, learning everything I could until I was comfortable enough to go on, you know, to the other side. So
switch to the other side. They actually say some of the best defense attorneys used to be prosecutors because they
I
know that they know the other side. So
yeah.
you have this criminal law background. Obviously, you are an immigrant. We are now in 2025. We have President Trump, who is our newly elected president for the second time.
Yeah.
I'm sure all these issues all come together for you when you're thinking about your people of color, whether they be immigrants or just Black people in this country. What do you um what is your take for, and I'll just say disenfranchised groups, because whether you be an immigrant, you be a Black person, you be LGBTQ, you be handicapped, if you're in a disenfranchised group in terms of how this current administration just like out the gate, out the gate, I almost feel like it was like a hit list. It felt like almost like a hit list. Like if you were angry with someone and then you became in charge and you just went after everyone. My sister always laughs at me because she's like, I have this list, like I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, the girl,
of course.
and she had a list, like her list of people she was gonna get back.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of what he did with this presidency. And so you have a lot of disenfranchised groups that you're very familiar with because of your background, because of people you've defended, you've advocated for. What are your thoughts and takes on these groups moving forward? Because I mean, we have 4 years of this, potentially 8, depending on changing the Constitution for him to get another term. How do these groups fight back with the law? I know we're starting to see a little bit of it. Some judges are just shutting him down.
Yeah. I feel like, Trump, the Trump administration has been going in and he was, I mean, pretty much signing off on executive orders by the dozen. And that is because he knows a lot of the things that he's trying to just sign off on, he can't get passed in Congress, or there are checks and balances like the law, right? And there's been a lot of courts that have been blocking his efforts, on certain fronts. But um, you know, I, it, everything he's been doing is no surprise. I mean, he said he was going to do it during his campaign. So elections have consequences, but sacrificing the rule of law should never be one of them. And I think that that's what he's trying to do. As far as marginalized communities and how they're affected by a lot of the decisions he's going to be making. For me, I'm always thinking in terms of criminal legal reform, criminal justice reform. I call it legal if people catch on because I don't feel there's justice. That word is, I don't feel confident enough to call our system justice. So I always substitute that word for legal. So the criminal legal system. I feel like he's going to undo a lot of the progress that the prior administration was responsible for. I think Biden did a lot in terms of executive orders that can really just be undone, right, by the next president. That's just how that works. But he, was able to address police reform. He was able to address clemency. He was able to address, a ban on private prisons. And it was all in an effort to, reduce discrimination and to, improve fairness in the system. And this administration isn't on board with any of that because they are attacking, to your point, people that are affected by the very things that Biden, I think, tried to change. And so I think that the media, you talked about the law, of course, that helps. A lot of people are appealing. A lot of people are suing. A lot of people are trying to reverse some of the things he's already done in the first week. So while we have organizations like the ACLU and the like challenging a lot of these things, I feel the media plays an important role, and I feel I'm part of media. So it really is a responsibility for us to shine a light because he is also attacking media. He's also declaring who can cover the White House, who is invited, who's not. And it's important that we continue to talk and continue to amplify and continue to support movements via the media by saying we've got to cover these issues and we got to amplify it. And that's a beauty of social media in general. It's a double-edged sword though, because so much information is out there. There can be some misinformation, but it, for the most part, is a place where people can have public conversation, where people can rally behind causes. I mean, the media, it really highlighted issues like police brutality, right? By airing the videos, by talking about these things. And so it was easier for people to actually see instead of just hear. So it's important, I think, not only for the law to provide checks and balances and the courts stepping in and really addressing the merits of what Trump is trying to do, but it's important that the media amplify these issues as well.
Absolutely.
Because you and I, we're invested in learning about what's happening. There are some people who are not to knock them, but this is what we do. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a TV watcher or a news watcher, I have the news on in the background all the time. It's not the most healthiest, but I have it on. There are people who get their news from TikTok, and that's fine, who get their news from IG. And so it's important for those individuals to also put what they get from the news, like us, and try to amplify it and share it through our social media channels, because we do know that people want to receive their news that way. So it's important.
Absolutely. Who would you say, or what would you say is your biggest motivator? I mean, you come over, I know you don't recall, but you're 9 months old. You come from a family that, you had to advocate for because of language barriers and cultural barriers. And I mean, you moved to Texas, for goodness sake, one of the most conservative states, white states in America. So who would you say, and it could be more than one person, is like your biggest like motivator? Because I mean, you've been able to do so much. You are a what they call a unicorn, right? With being an immigrant, with being, less than 5% of the lawyers are Black, and then less than 2.5% are Black. And then I don't know how many less than that are judges, less than that are TV judges. So you're a unicorn.
I don't feel like I'm a unicorn.
You
I
are.
feel like white people would probably consider me a unicorn because they're not exposed to the excellence that I feel I am. And
Right.
that answers your question. There, besides my family being motivation for me,
Hmm.
because I never want to squander the opportunity that they have given me by providing a better life here. So
Hmm.
that's always like I've got to always make them proud. But I also feel like the people that I'm surrounded by and the people that I'm not, but I see from a distance and am a fan of, I feel like social media is a connector of sorts to people that you otherwise wouldn't have ever met in person, but you're able to almost feel like you know them, right?
Hmm.
And I'm motivated by the Black women that I'm seeing online really doing amazing things and really finding not just work, but their life's work. And I'm still in search of that. And so for them to find that for themselves motivates me to keep going and to really not settle for just work. I really still am looking. I love Hot Bench. Let me just say that. I think that it is a part of my brand, what I feel proud of, because I always want to be proud of the work I'm doing, but it is not, I think, my life's work. It's getting me closer to that. So I do feel like I'm close, but I am motivated by a lot of the women that I see, really Black women, really doing well in their lane, and really exploring other things too. And it just encourages me to be just as curious, to be unafraid, to lean in on community as well. We don't ask for help often. And I think that has changed for me. And I feel like social media allows you to make those connections where you can lean on each other. It's a weird thing because I've leaned on people I've never met, but we've known each other and grown on social media. So it sounds weird, but it feels right. And so
No,
I feel like
no,
I feel
no.
like they're my motivation for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I think that's beautiful. Like you said, you can have it's an extension of your online community, the people you follow on social media. Last question, because I asked all guests this question. Obviously, less than 5% of, you know, the legal profession are Black, less than 2.5% are Black women. That statistic sadly has not grown in several years. Like it either stays the same or it actually goes down a little bit. What do you think we can do to continue to grow the legal profession with Black attorneys?
Um, I think that representation really matters. I feel I feel just my presence on television, um and a lot of people don't get those opportunities, so it's not just about being on TV, but it does certainly help when you have people representing a profession on such a platform, a large platform, and allowing people to actually see that that's attainable. I've had people say, listen, I never knew you existed. I turn the TV on and I see a Black woman on television, and that automatically makes them like pause, like to see what this is about, but then to also realize that I'm a lawyer as well. It gives them a sense of pride for sure. And a lot of people are like, I've now watched the show because of you. So representation really matters. And I remember a time, and again, this goes back to the representation on TV not being the only avenue where you can inspire others coming after you to sort of, walk the same path. But when I was a prosecutor in court, a lot of the a lot of Black people who came into court would assume that I was the court reporter or something, or an assistant, never realizing that I was actually an attorney until I announced myself in court. That opened up a whole new world for them. So I think that representation is really, really important. Mentorship.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I'm not gonna lie here. I'm not necessarily advocating for people to go to law school or to become lawyers unless they want to, unless they feel the law is the route they want to take or feel the law is the way that they can make tangible differences in people's lives, which is a truth. It can. Um, I feel like the law has opened up doors for me that, you know, has provided opportunities. But if I could go back, I probably would have taken a different path. But I'm glad that I took the path that I did. I think people need to understand that you can't complain about a system and you can't complain about the actors within that system if you're not willing to be said actor and change those systems through action. So at the prosecutor's office across this country, it's still largely white male. And so when we're talking about people who are looking at cases like I was and making decisions on whether you're going to continue prosecution or you're going to give somebody deferred prosecution, hey, you do a couple of things and then we're dismissing this. There's not a whole lot of that going around. So if you want to get your hands dirty, you're going to have to play those roles. So I feel like I said, representation, really making people aware that this is something you can do. You really can. And mentoring people. I had a hard time finding mentors that were willing to take me under their wing and show me the ropes. I have a really great mentor that I still utilize to this day. So he was phenomenal. But finding a mentor that can say, here's how practical the law is, because when you're in law school, you're learning theories and stuff, but you're not really learning how to file a case, like the day in, day out. So mentorship is really important. And I think just being in a place of trying to inspire people, not through, because I'm going to be very honest about my experiences as a lawyer, law school, it wasn't fun. I don't enjoy talking about law school because it almost triggers like this really bad place for me. And so I won't lie about it, but those were my experiences. It doesn't necessarily mean I just wasn't good at school. Let's just say that. It could have been anything. I'm just not good at school. So and I don't like competitive environments, and law school is competitive. And so I feel like it was just my experiences. I'm definitely going to be honest about it. I don't think that my experiences and being honest about it would, persuade someone not to do what they want to do. If you want to go to law school and you have a clear vision on what you want to do with that law degree, by all means, please go, and understand that you are a few in number. I know you threw out some stats I didn't even realize was that low. Especially now. But we need lawyers, Black lawyers, more than ever right now. And I think that if anybody felt motivated to be equipped with the law and want to go to law school, it'd be now. So that's all I can say about that.
Yeah,
so.
No. And I appreciate you being honest. I don't think you are alone. There's definitely some moments in law school that definitely triggered me. So you're not alone with that. But I think that leads us to our Black Excellence Moment of the Week that we close each episode out with. I know you can obviously catch her on Hot Bench. Where else can they find you on like social media before I close out with the Black Excellence?
I mean, you can find me on social media with the handle, my name. Hot Bench, people always ask, where can I watch it? You can go to Hot Bench's website, you can click the state, and then you'll see the city that you're living in, and it'll tell you the actual station because it's a local thing. I have no idea where everybody lives, right?
Syndicated.
Right. Yeah. So that's that. And I just hope that people can, watch an episode. And I promise you watch one episode, you are going to learn, whether it is writing the terms of whatever agreement you had, even on a napkin. It doesn't have to be a legal document. It's, whether you want to learn how to get your, security deposit back from your landlord and what that is. I'm telling you, these are all relatable issues. So you're going to walk away.
I have a new word, edutainment.
Edutainment. Yeah.
Well, you were just speaking about prosecutors and there not being that many Black women prosecutors. Kamala Harris, former VP, It's our Black Excellence Moment of the Week. She is being honored by the NAACP with their
Oh,
Chairman
nice.
Award in a couple of days. So we're really excited for her to receive that award with all her work. Obviously, she did not win the presidency, but I don't know too many people that can run in less than 90 days and get over 200 electoral votes, especially when we
Yes.
only needed 240, to raise the amount of money she raised, to raise even the amount of support she did in such a short time frame. And even if she had never thought to run for president, she had already made history. I think people forget that
Representation.
she already
Representation.
made history serving in
Yeah.
all arms of the government. One of the few people that have served in all branches of the government, was an amazing prosecutor. And then, like I said, eventually became vice president of the United States, you know, first Black woman, first South Asian American woman to do that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, she already is in the history books, whether she
Yeah.
had ever decided to run or not. And I think she ran because she knew the country needed it. I think they were like, hey, it's your turn, you're up. And she did the best that she could. And so here we are. Like you said, elections have consequences, but she did everything she could possibly do. So we
Absolutely.
cannot be any more prouder that for her. And we are excited for her to receive the NAACP Chairman Award. So she is our Black Excellence Moment of the Week. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have you back in the future, potentially at a Black Warriors event. And we will obviously be watching Hot Bench. I know I've already watched a few episodes, but I'll definitely be tuning into a few more episodes, and we'll definitely plug you throughout our platforms with the show. And
Thank you.
we're blessed to have you on season 5, and we look forward to having you on future seasons. And as always, we're rooting for everyone Black.